The C500 Mark II is a full-frame camera. In theory, full-frame cameras should have better low-light performance because, to put it simply, they have a larger sensor to capture light. If the pixel count is the same between a Super 35 camera and a full-frame camera, the full-frame camera will usually have larger photoreceptors, and these gather more light. More light means a stronger image signal, which requires less gain. Larger sensors have larger pixels, which creates less digital noise at high ISOs, so even the digital noise should look better than a Super 35mm camera. However, myself and several other C500 Mark II owners felt that the noise performance was not as good as we expected. It couldn't keep up with the C300 Mark II or even older cameras in Canon cinema lineup. Luckily, after some extensive testing and a bit of advice from Canon, we found the best settings to get nice clean footage from the C500 Mark II. I'm Simon, welcome to the Power Boys. I've got some tests of the C500 Mark II and the C300 Mark II side by side. Remember, the C300 Mark II is a Super 35mm camera that came out over 4 years ago, so we expect the C500 to outperform it. If we put the C500 Mark II in its Super 35 mode and put that side by side with the C300 Mark II, we can see that the C300 Mark II is doing a much better job here than the C500. It might not be as clear because of YouTube compression, but there's a noticeable difference between the two images in the noise. This time, to use the C500's full-frame sensor, we're matching the field of view by using a longer lens on the C500 than the C300. The crop factor means that using a 50mm on the C500 and a 35mm on the C300 gets roughly the same image. The images look very similar. If we crop in, we can see that the C500 might be doing a better job at ISO 800, but there's not much in it. When we start to boost the ISO, now to 1600, the C300 maintains a better noise performance in the shadows than the C500, and the difference only exaggerates as we go through the ISOs. Now, this definitely didn't look right, and a few of us got together and found that we were getting similar results. So we did some more tests and we got in touch with Canon. They sent us back this information about the noise reduction settings in camera. The C500 Mark II uses a new noise reduction system and is optimized for full-frame sensors compared to Super 35. The system, which is more advanced than previous cameras, offers the user more control over the image. This explains why the C500 Mark II looks noticeably worse when shooting in the Super 35 mode rather than its full frame. These are the following default noise reduction settings of each camera. C500 Mark II, spatial filter 1, frame correlation off. C300 Mark II, noise reduction off, which encompasses the spatial filter and frame correlation together. Now, what is the spatial filter and frame correlation? According to the C500 Mark II user manual, the spatial filter reduces the noise by applying a soft focus-like effect on the entire picture. When set to a value other than off, after images are not produced, but the whole image will have a softer look. So in other words, they're saying we'll lose a bit of sharpness if we change the spatial filter. And so here we've got a spatial filter test done by Adam Kokeby, who's another C500 owner. And so the image on the left is when we've got the spatial filter switched to off. And the one on the right is when we've started to change the spatial filter, so just using one rather than off. So cropping into 200%, even though there is a supposed loss of sharpness when you change the spatial filter, to my eye, I can't really see a huge difference here, so I think any change that happens is very minimal. But as we go up through the settings, you notice quite a significant softening of the image, which is quite similar to when you use noise reduction in edit software. A means of getting rid of the noise is to kind of almost add a bit of a blur, and so you lose a lot of sharpness. So we're just skipping through a few different examples here. You can change the spatial filter settings from off all the way up through 12. The second option, frame correlation, reduces noise elements by comparing the current image to the previous one. When set to a value other than off, the perceived resolution will not be affected, but an after image may appear for moving subjects. So by default, the camera is set to 1 on spatial filter and 0 on frame correlation. If we change the frame correlation, it will result in a slightly softer image. However, Canon recommended trying to set this to 1 to try and reduce the noise in camera. And the results were incredible. Have a look here. This is an image where the frame correlation is 0 on the left and 1 on the right. If we crank up the ISO, you start to really see a huge difference between these two images. It's actually quite incredible how much better it's looking. And to me, it doesn't look like we're having any loss in sharpness in the image. Even if we did, I think it's an imperceptibly small loss of sharpening, and it's worth it for such an incredible improvement in the low light performance. On this clip, if you take a close look at the red brick, you can really see the difference. And here's just another test comparing the C300 Mark II and the C500 Mark II using the frame correlation off and on 1. I mean, the results here are absolutely astounding. If you look at the image on the far right hand side, which are the new settings that we've changed our camera to, the noise is so much less, and at 3200 it looks quite good, but it's unbelievable that even when we go up to 12,800 on the ISO, it is actually producing an image that to me still looks usable, which is absolutely incredible. The difference in results between just this one really small setting is night and day. Also, I think this is a really great example of when you use a full frame, how much sharper the image can be. You can especially notice it on the leaves and in the colour of the flowers. And also with this test, you can really see that magenta shift that people often talk about with the C300 Mark II. Going back to that first test, this even helps when shooting in the Super 35 mode, so you can see here when the frame correlation is set to off as it was originally and then swapping to 1. This even applies when filming at high frame rates. This is the C500 Mark II in the Super 16 crop of the sensor, filming at 120 frames a second, and if you have a look at the image on the left where the frame correlation is off, you can see that there's a lot more noise in the shadows in the background. And if that wasn't proof enough, this whole piece of the camera was shot with these new noise reduction settings on the C500 Mark II, and the camera is currently set to 10,000 on the ISO, and it doesn't look too bad to me. And so I'd recommend changing your settings to match this if you want better low light and just in general better noise performance on your C500 Mark II. The reasons why Canon don't set these as the default settings in camera are beyond me, but at least we've got a solution here that works. Good luck on your shoots, I hope you enjoyed this video and see you on the next one.